And here we are.
All right.
We've started. I got it. My guy Zeke. I'll ship the files over to, and he chops it all up and edits it for the actual,
For the final cut.
for the in-demand YouTube cut. So, dude, how should I intro you? I was thinking before you came over. I was like, oh, what does Nolan do? So, outdoor enthusiast.
Yeah, it'd be accurate.
Doomsday prepper.
Not really accurate, but I think about
Yeah,
it.
we'll throw that in there. But he's my friend Nolan here. Known Nolan P since 2000-ish.
Yeah, probably like when I got to Emporia State about 2000-ish.
2000s.
Wait, like 2002.
Give or take a year. And he's here to promote his new book. What would be the book that you would write if you were to write a book?
Such a wide spectrum of topics here.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Where would you start? Dude, it'd have to be about fishing.
Yeah,
probably.
well, that's probably the only thing I'm qualified to write about is some sort of, angling and how it, takes its place in the human realm.
Angling in the human realm.
Angling in the human realm. That's
Dude,
good.
That's your title right there, bro.
That's good.
I had a pencil here. So, two stories I definitely want to make sure we tell on this. Where's my? There it is. Angling in the human realm, bro. That's gonna be the title of this podcast. Of this episode anyway. Angling in the human realm. Two stories I definitely want to make sure we tell on this is. One, I want to hear the story of how you almost died fishing a month or two ago.
Oh, God. That's the longest story ever.
It's a good
great.
one.
Yeah,
And then second, I definitely got to tell the couch story. Flipping
Lord,
over the
it would be
highway, bro.
incriminating. I think the statute of limitations is up on that.
It should be. Yeah, it should be.
Couches were the only thing harmed in the making.
Yeah, dude. But so yeah, man. I mean, Mad Dad City. We can talk about any topic. There's no restriction on here.
We don't just rant about what it's like to be a mad dad.
Yeah, I mean, typically so far we've gone down rabbit holes of ancient human history, conspiracies.
Yeah.
If you follow a lot of the Graham Hancock type rabbit holes, if you're in tune with that dude.
I don't remember that name specifically.
Okay, so
but,
he's got
I've
a whole.
probably heard some of the topics.
There's this whole concept and theory about our modern day civilization is a reset of a previous civilization that was far more advanced technologically than we give it credit for.
Can't help but wonder that.
So there's that. We've gone down different conspiracies. Aliens, UFOs, of course, have been a hot topic the past few months, but always intriguing.
Always. Mm-hmm.
And I think those are probably the two main topics so far, but they intertwine. I've got a few.
Maybe some psychedelics usage.
Yeah, psychedelics all ties in, man, because even on the ancient history stuff, that's one of the pieces that tie in with the ancient societies is they definitely were way more in tune with using psychedelics from religious experiences, and it's interesting. I think we even discussed a little bit about this, but some of the experiences are very similar,
across civilizations,
across
and
people,
times.
and what they've experienced, what they encountered, and so those types of things, man. I've got a few topics queued up too. That'll be interesting to chat about when we get there. But so yeah, dude. Tell me the story about.
We might as well start
fishing
there.
Until it almost killed
We
you.
might as well start there. So for much of my life, I've been 99% focused on fishing and what I can accomplish.
Right.
That said, there's only enough minutes in the day. It takes a lot of resources to get to the fishing destination and to execute all the steps necessary to be successful. Given that there's a finite time in the day, I have felt like sleep comes second.
To fishing. Right on.
And just to accomplishing, even if it's not fishing, something else. I got my mind set on something. Sleep comes second. This last time in Florida, we fished for 5 days straight. I was there for 7.
What part of Florida?
Yeah, so we went down to Stuart, Florida, off the north of Miami.
Okay.
It's a suburb north of Miami. A couple of my buddies, childhood friends live there that are brothers. They both have lots of resources. One of them has a lot of money.
Okay.
Anyways, we went down there with a goal in mind to catch a few different species of fish and to one night fish with a fly rod for a snook.
Okay.
And we ended up being successful, but at the cost of sleep and rest. And
For sure.
brought my 9-year-old son with me, and he slept. He slept on the boat. We left him at the brother's house one day. So we would spend like 9 a.m. on the boat until about 6 a.m. the next day.
Nice.
So all day and all night. And the problem was the fish would start biting at like 9 at night.
Okay.
So we would have a few hours during the day where the tides would be changing and the fish would turn on, and we'd catch the crap out of them for 2 hours.
What were the fish you were catching?
So during the day we were catching like sharks and grouper and Jack Crevalle.
Got some. I've been off the coast of Tampa. I've got some cousins there. This would have been 20 years ago, but caught some grouper.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool stuff. What size sharks are you catching?
You know, we started with one size of tackle and quickly realized it was too light because we got all the line screamed off of our reels, 3-4 times, and our poles would bend over and we'd go to work, and 400 yards of line later they'd be snapped and gone. So we started pulling out the reels that are as big as my head and 80-pound test line with wire leaders.
This is all your buddy's gear?
Yeah. And so we upsized our tackle quickly, and we started pulling in, 6-8 foot spinner sharks. We caught a few spinner sharks.
Spinner shark.
I had never seen a spinner shark.
Huh.
They jump out of the water and do amazing leaps and spins.
That'd be cool.
They cut your line oftentimes when they're in midair. We started upticking our
spinner shark here.
wire leaders. Yeah, type that in. Spinner shark.
Just want to get an image of a spinner shark. What the hell is that? That is not a spinner shark.
Oh, there must be
Like
a
this
toy.
one. Something like this.
Yeah, they jump out of the air and do a bunch of twirls.
Surfer on the open water takes a break on his board and sees something spectacular rise above the waves.
Oh,
Right there.
right on, dude.
Right, spin.
Spinner sharks.
So they pop your line every time they spin because they wrap the line around their heads,
Fair enough.
and it cuts it.
Nice, dude. That's cool. All
We
right.
must have caught a half a dozen spinner sharks and never once got one to the boat. You couldn't.
Nice defense mechanism.
Yeah, it was. Anyways, long story. We'd get back to the sun would start coming up after all night, and you start catching fish at 9 p.m. and they just are white hot the entire night. So about 6 a.m. they would turn off again, and we were tired, and we'd go trailer the boat and drive back to the house, and we'd sleep for a couple hours, and then I'd wake up and I'd think, oh, we got to get back out there,
Of course, it was
we
too
got to
much
get
fun,
back
man.
out there. It was too much fun. It's like the adrenaline just surpasses.
But also, when you don't get to do those things
Yeah.
too often,
Right.
if you're sleep, it's like when you take a trip on vacation. You go somewhere, you don't want to sleep.
No, I'm the worst vacationer ever. I don't rest at all. Yeah.
So I haven't even told the kids this yet, so I'm not gonna air this. But I just booked a trip to the Big Island at the end of September.
Is that Maui?
No, Maui just is
burned down,
Is burning
right?
down right
Wow.
now. I almost booked Maui, but some of the observatories
Yeah.
were a little bit more accessible on the Big Island, so we
Yeah.
got a spot on the northwestern coast. And I'm looking at spearfishing
Ooh.
out there to take Cooper at least.
Dude, once Cooper and you do some spearfishing, that's a new hobby that you'll find just ridiculously
The
exhilarating.
reason why I want to do it is I've been to Oahu one time. This was 2003, I think, and spearfishing,
Yeah.
night spearfishing, right? Where you just have scuba gear and you just have a 6-foot spear with a rubber band, kind of. I don't know what you call it.
yeah.
You just hold the rubber band and load it up.
Yeah.
And it's like midnight, 1 a.m. when you go out. And if we'd have done that the first night we were there, we would have done it every single night.
Right,
But we did it the
right.
last night, and so I've just had it in my head ever since. Like I can't wait to do
Yeah.
that again. It was so much fun.
Yeah. It's the human is right. You just get to sit in the environment of the fishes, and all of a sudden you're like part of their world. And
Oh yeah, and you're when you're night spear fishing or when you're just night fishing in general, you have this underwater flashlight and you're by the reef, and so everything you come across just freezes when you shine a light on it.
Right.
They don't know what to do. So, dude, I shot an eel, but it took me like 4
Oh
times
my
to
God.
hit it, and that eel was pissed. So I hit it right in the tail, and that thing wrapped around the spear.
Now you got a problem.
Oh, dude, its jaws were huge. Its jaws were like, I don't know, man, like probably the size of this, like probably 4 or 5 inches long, and it went to town on that spear. And I'm screaming in the water, like looking down on it from above. And if like that would have been my arm, I would have no more arm. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I took the spear out, and it swam away, and I was like, holy shit, what am I doing here?
Yeah. I've got a couple good spear fishing stories. Yeah.
But go ahead, man.
Yeah.
Sharks.
Yeah. Anyways, long story short is that we fished for 5 days straight, and the older brother of the buddy I spent all the time with was back at home most of the time. He was like, "You guys are crazy. I'm not going out today. I only slept 2 hours last night."
So there was one.
There was one sane brother, and he at the end of the trip, the younger brother that I was with most of the time, he bought a new truck in South Florida. He lives 6 hours north in North Florida, so he was like, "Nolan, you and your boy drive my old truck back north. Just leave it at the airport.
Okay.
I'm going to drive my new truck. I'll see you later back in Kansas. We'll get my used truck another day from the airport." So about 2 hours into that trip, I'm sitting there behind the wheel, and I start feeling like my consciousness is going to leave my body. And it was a feeling that I could not stop. My hands started getting all hot, and my chest got hot, and it was the first time in my...
It's not funny.
So I'm 41 years old, and it was the first time in my life I felt like a feeling like I'd never felt before. And, of course, I'm doing 90 going down the highway with my 9-year-old son in the passenger seat, so I kind of started to panic because I couldn't defend against this feeling like I was literally just getting ready to go away. And I'm sitting there staring down at my hands on the steering wheel, and I realized like my mind is no longer with my body. Like I could control my physical body, but
So sleep dep.
yeah, it was sleep
I think I'm recording here.
deprivation.
Let me fix that real quick.
Yeah,
Sleep deprivation.
I guess it was sleep deprivation, but
I've done this before. I don't even record.
shall I continue?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I made a very wise decision to immediately pull over to the right shoulder, and I pulled as far off the right shoulder as I could because I didn't know what was going to happen. So I call my buddy Marshall, and I'm like, "Dude, this is happening." And he just said, "Yeah, I've experienced that before. It's from, drinking too much over the course of too many days and
With
not
no sleep.
sleeping
Yeah.
enough." Right.
Okay.
So anyways, I just made the executive decision. I just said, "Hang on the line. I'm going to call 911 because there's no way I'm getting out of this situation without
And
someone."
You're on an interstate.
I'm on like the
Cars are flying
main
by.
turnpike going north
dude.
right through the middle of Florida. I got 4 hours to go on a 6-hour trip. There's no way I'm making it. I basically needed like an Uber to drive Nash and I,
So
my son and I.
you've turned north though, isn't it? Right around Naples, where if you're traveling from, I think the Miami Fort Lauderdale area, you go across Alligator Alley or whatever, Crocodile, whatever that is.
Yeah, there's the whole Everglades
Yeah, the
National
Everglades.
Park in there. Mhm.
Then you go north. So did you even turn north?
I can't remember. I was
Okay.
headed north at some point,
Okay.
but I was kind of in the middle of the nowhere because I was talking to the 911 folks, and they were like, "Boy, you're 30 minutes from us," even the ambulance. So, I was like, I thought I've at least got to lay here for 30 minutes and try to keep my consciousness. So, I just told my son, like, keep talking to me. If I go to sleep, talk to the 911 people.
Holy smokes.
Keep on the phone. Don't hang up. And bottom line is I kind of just laid there in like a state of mental torpor.
Torpor.
Torpor's like a biological word for like hibernation, but you're not quite all the way metabolically asleep.
Great word.
Yeah, torpor's something many animals do. Fish, frogs, basically any animal that doesn't hibernate.
Sleep, just
It's just like they have a capability, like a physiological capability to lower their metabolic rate.
love it.
And they just don't use the resources in their body, and they just kind of shut down. So, in my state of torpor, I could talk, I could walk around, I could function, but it was all physically I could do to exert myself just to mutter words. Yeah, so I was
I
awake.
think I've experienced similar.
Yeah.
Just no energy, lack of sleep. Really, the sleep deprivation.
It was it's a mental wall. I'll get into this, but I've experienced it about 6 or 8 times.
Did you feel? I guess you probably weren't in that. You weren't trying. You were in more of an emergency. Mode.
I'm no doctor. It's like the parasympathetic nervous system of your brain.
Huh.
It's what goes into action when like fight or flight mode. When some physiological or external environmental emergency occurs, your body stops all the other processes and throws itself into a fight or flight mode.
Okay, well, I'm thinking of something else, and I was thinking where I read a while back where like some of the major like artists like Salvador Dali would purposely make himself a little sleep deprived and then wait until he was in a state where he was nodding in and out of consciousness and then he would
paint masterpiece
or at least draw out sketches of what he wanted to do because he was just kind of slipping in between reality and like some sort of creative mode. But
it's no secret to creative minds often attempt to like purposefully get themselves into that mind frame with drugs usually.
Drugs, yeah. Just drugs.
Yeah, with natural hallucinogens. Anyways,
so the cops are on the way.
Yeah, the fire truck and the ambulance all show up on the side of the freaking highway in Florida. Of course, I'm embarrassed, but I'm more very relieved that some other adults are there to help in case I decide to go away mentally.
You've got your 9-year-old son is at least in good hands.
Right. And, and the funny thing is he's such a trooper. He was excited with it the whole time. He's like, cool, ambulances and stuff, right? And I was talking to him the whole time, but, I get an IV on the side of the road. They put me in the ambulance. They take all my luggage and put it in the ambulance because I'm on my way to the airport. So, I'd made peace with the fact that I'm not going to make that flight.
Yep.
But I did have like 5 hours to go, so there was a chance still.
Okay.
We get to the emergency room. I take all sorts of blood tests and pee tests, and I had partaken in a little bit of marijuana a couple days before that. So, I'm aware of how long it takes for, certain drugs to get out of your system.
Yep.
Bottom line is I tested negative for marijuana and
when you
alcohol.
Had been drinking and
so I had
420.
been right. So I guess I kind of forgot to mention this. I didn't think that I had passed any lines with regard to drinking. I had drank alcohol. I drank alcohol and water the whole trip as needed. I felt fine the entire trip too. Never once had really like a hangover.
Okay.
Just kind of made sure I maintained the water, So blood tests came back immaculate. Apparently there was nothing wrong with me other than I was severely dehydrated.
Okay.
So they diagnosed me with sun sickness, heat stroke, and dehydration.
All right. Combined
that's
with
pretty
lack of
much
sleep.
it.
Yeah.
Pretty much it. Said, you just need to get more magnesium and potassium, which are electrolytes. Here's an electrolyte solution in an IV, right? They gave me some Pedialyte and an IV and sent me on my way. So, my little hospital brand became like my hospital band around my wrist became like a badge of honor, that I had fished my ass right into the hospital. And, my buddies were real proud of it. They put it on the refrigerator and everything. Well, I got all sorts.
Whatever happened to your guy's truck? You just left it on the side of the road?
He went and got it at the airport because we went to the hospital. No, you're right. It did. It stayed on the side of the highway.
All right.
He went and got it a few days ago.
Just on the highway?
Yeah, it was just on the highway at mile marker, whatever.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
Just text, hey, your truck is...
Yeah. He met me at the hospital and was like, God damn, man, what the hell did you do?
That's
so
awesome. Dude, that is so funny, man. Well, I'm glad you made it. Otherwise, we wouldn't. I don't know who we'd have today for the episode.
There's a little bit more to the story, if I may.
Please
it's
do.
kind of the cherry on top, and just a good lesson for this can happen. A couple of weeks went by. This was in May, like in the teens, May 15th, 14th, something like that.
3 months?
Yeah, 3 months ago. So,
Okay.
right, I figured I get home, I'm normal, everything's going to be fine.
All right.
Of course, I keep up my normal routine of, I'll have 4 or 5 IPAs on a Friday after work
on.
and stuff
Yep.
because I love the taste of IPAs.
Delicious.
It happened again the day after I had had 4 or 5 beers. 2 weeks after
Ooh.
Florida, I get up, I'm sober, I feel pretty normal,
Okay.
and then about noon or 1, I kind of feel like my body shut down again, and
Whoa.
I was on my way to go fishing at where my boat is at, about an hour from
Yeah.
my house
What
in
lake is that
Kansas
again?
City, Perry Lake.
Perry Lake, yep.
Right. So on the way there, I'm behind the wheel again, and all of a sudden I'm having freaking
While you're
deja vu
driving
while
again?
I'm driving
Oh,
again,
dude.
and it's only an hour drive down south of Lawrence,
Yep.
Kansas.
Yep.
It's not in the country.
Yep.
It's a drive, one I've done hundreds of times.
Yep.
Nothing out of the ordinary. I've got my daughter with me this time. So I start to kind of feel like I'm back in the same place, and I start to feel like I'm disconnected from my body again. I'm like, oh my God,
What?
I've only got 40 minutes to go. I've only got 30 minutes to go. I've only got 20 minutes to go.
Just want to get there, yeah.
So I'm just fighting to make it to my parents'
God,
house
dude.
where my boat's at. And I get there and I'm like, man, I'm not well. So I just laid down on their couch and I slept for like 3-4 hours at my
Okay.
folks' house. We did not go fishing that afternoon like I had told my daughter we
Yeah.
were going to go do. I
Yeah.
get up, I eat dinner. I'm fine then all of a sudden. So long story short is over the course of a week, 2, I experienced this every few days. And it starts to get to the point where, I experienced it again at home a few days later. And I tell the wife, and she's like, she takes my blood pressure, it's through the roof. So
shit. Okay.
I forgot that part of the story. In Florida, the emergency doctor said your blood pressure's so high, you're about to have a stroke. You need to calm down.
Okay.
So I apparently almost had a stroke. And otherwise, I'll tell a backstory. I'm in great physical condition. It's kind of something I focus on.
Yeah,
So
if you
like,
guys don't know Nolan will go and swim 100 laps at the pool just to start a day.
Right. So I don't feel like my heart is in disarray, and the blood tests in the hospital came back good. My liver's fine, which my eyes got super big. And I said, well, shit, that's amazing that given all the damage that I've done over the years, can't believe my liver's fine. Okay, great. Good news. I go to the emergency room in Kansas City.
Okay.
Because of my blood pressure and
Holy
because
shit.
I was having an episode. I didn't know what else to call it.
Yeah.
So in the emergency room, they did the same thing. Like, look, you're fine. And I didn't have any lack of electrolytes at this point because I hadn't been fishing and drinking for 5 days. So they basically discharged me with nothing's wrong with you. And it was frustrating because I was feeling such profound physical, symptoms. I go to a cardiologist. I get a stress test done. I go to a neurologist. I get brain scans done. Basically, over the last 2 months, I've been to the ER 3 times. I've been to a neurologist. I've been to cardiologist. I've done stress tests where they work you out on a treadmill. All results have come back. You're fine. Your brain's fine. Your heart's fine. So I have seen a psychotherapist twice now because I can't decide what's wrong with me. I can't figure out what the catalyst
What does the therapist say?
So this is the end all be all, is that the psychotherapist and the neurologist have talked. They are concluding that I have done that trip in Florida was like the straw that broke the camel's back. It's my brain putting off a check engine warning light from alcohol and lack of sleep.
My guess would have been that somehow your Florida trip triggered just a correlation. When you drink a few beers, now your body's like, wait a minute, I need to shut down just in case.
So that could be what it is too. The doctor was supposed to do some sort of EMDR. It's called like electromagnetic. It's like brain spotting, they call it, where they put you in like a state of hypnotism, and then they ask you a bunch of questions, like questions specific to things that trigger the episode. and then they try to discover that spot in your brain with electrical waves, and then they focus on it. But we never really went there in treatment yet. He doesn't really think I'm a good candidate for it.
Do you have another appointment?
I do have another appointment a couple Mondays from now.
Okay.
But the what they have diagnosed me with is alcohol-induced panic attacks. So this is something.
I've never heard of it.
This is something that is known by the cardiologist, called it Sunday scaries. So this is not a new thing.
Go out, drink on a Saturday.
When you get hangxiety, and that's a term you're probably familiar with. Hangxiety. It's kind of a new thing people have started talking about.
Anxiety about everything, is it?
They just give things freaking words.
Yeah.
But it's a term that I've heard recently called hangxiety. Instead of being like hungover the way you normally feel, it's like an extreme anxiety. But mine's like crippling, like to the point where I was convinced something physical was happening with my heart or my brain. But apparently during these episodes, nothing's actually going on with my heart or my brain. It's all mental, but it's manifesting itself physically.
Yeah. I mean, placebo, basically.
So like the last time it happened, I was shaking so violently.
Dude.
I was like on the couch at home shaking so violently that it's crazy. It's like I'm like a human tremor.
At this point, you think it's all in your head, too.
So
and you're
the primary care doctor gave me some hydroxyzine, something that's just supposed to like knock me out and just like shut it down, like let's just end this right now and put you to sleep type of pill, which is fantastic. I take one, I'm like asleep, 15 minutes later. The point of the story is some humans have like a check engine warning light in their brain. Some don't, and mine thankfully does. And
you would have had a stroke.
I would have drank myself into a different, more serious medical condition. My brain is like, look, chemically speaking, you can't tolerate more than 3-4 beers, or I'm gonna shut down.
Interesting.
And the fact is I don't think I'm much different than like a lot of people. I have been a very well functioning.
Sure.
I mean, I don't know if I would call myself an alcoholic, but I've been a very well functioning drinker over the years, and I told my psychotherapist, probably for the first time in my life, honestly, how much I drink or have drank. And, I had a job 10 years ago where I was a large social component to this job, and I would go drinking a lot, and I developed a really high tolerance. And so I would drink, a half a bottle of vodka every day because, I was out socializing and it became normal, chemically speaking. My blood was used to it, to have like thin blood most of the time. And, I think that did some sort of brain damage over the course of 10 years to the point where now if I drink like 4 or 5 beers and I get to that point where I'm drunk, it's going to throw me into a little bit of a physiological fight or
your
flight.
Check engine light's going on,
and it shuts me down, and I've learned that threshold really well. So, I guess the takeaway here is just,
don't drink as much, I guess.
Don't drink as much, and I have to make sure I get enough sleep to actually go into REM. That REM component of sleep, it's like your body taking out the trash, of your mind. And if you don't get it, then it deals with previous trash that's supposed to be gone.
Sure.
So just, I got to make sure I stay under a certain amount of alcohol and I get enough sleep.
Dude.
Yeah, so there's
learned.
that, yeah, and the thing is I've been using a lot of medicinal marijuana in place of it recently.
Okay.
And is
it helping?
It helps immensely. It makes it so you just don't feel the need to drink that much ever. And you sleep very well if you take the right kind of
gummies, or are you on?
Yeah, gummies, and that's a whole other topic. We could talk for an hour about the difference in the way different modes of marijuana hit the system.
Yep.
Like, flower is far different than
You got your vape.
Yeah, flour's far different than oils.
Normal smoke.
Oils are far different than edibles. The way an edible hits me, it's just easier. That's why I do it. But I don't like the way an edible treats me near as much as I like the way smoking flower hits me.
Huh.
So, Hopefully everybody enjoyed
Dude,
that. It's been like
take care of
3
yourself,
months
man. I'm
since
glad-
that's happened, and
I'm glad you're obviously.
know.
I'm glad you're one okay. Two, having these learning experiences, in advance versus having something more serious happen. Dude, I've had a couple. So this would have been 2015-ish. I was going through some sleep deprivation stuff. We just moved. It was work related as well. Working a whole bunch, moving a family, trying to be there for everybody involved. Right. There were times where this is where I started to prioritize sleep in my day to day.
Yeah.
And I would be driving places, and I would the feeling when you wake up.
Right.
I would wake up and I would know where I was going, but I'd have no clue where I was coming from.
Couldn't remember it. Yeah.
I'd be like, okay, I'm headed home. Where was I?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Boy. Yeah. That's
And
yeah.
it'd be freaky.
Yeah, that's
because I
scary.
could not recall. I'd be like, oh my God, I just woke up on this road. And that shit is scary because your cars are flying by, man.
You're like,
So-
how did I do that?
yeah. So I definitely started to prioritize sleep, and I still do, to where, if you can get 6 to 7 to 8 with uninterrupted sleep
Right,
as well,
that's
right? If you're
key.
waking yourself up 20 minutes every 30 minutes or something,
doesn't
or something's
count.
bothering you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not getting into that deep REM where is actually refreshing yourself for the next day. So
And I've always been, and prior to 3 months ago, I always kind of thought that panic attacks, anxiety attacks, stress in general that humans experience, I always kind of thought that stuff was a bit of snake oil.
okay. Well, now
I
you
just
experienced
thought like those are just weak-minded humans, to be honest with you. I'm sorry.
Really?
It sounds terrible. But I always thought of myself as a very high-functioning human. And I just thought those other people, they're just not on the same level as me.
Your 40s starts
They're just
to
not on the
humble
same
you, right?
level as me. I just thought that. But, recently I've discovered that all that shit is real. And because I experienced a few panic attacks where I was convinced that physically something was wrong with me. But if the human mind can take your body physically to a place that you've never been before, where you're literally feeling sensations in your body and physical sensations like shaking uncontrollably and a really hot chest and super sweaty hands and arms, you're like, this is real.
And you're physically fine,
And
but your brain is triggering.
And during the episodes, I can get up, walk around, talk, do math, but I don't want to. Mentally, it's like, shut up, everybody shut up, I'm going to shut up. We're all going to just focus on me and make sure I get out of this.